Hello there, my name is Salim Javed and I'm an assistant professor at the Faculty of Mass Communication and Media Technology at SGT University. So far we have been talking about what is cinema, how it all started, and in that series I was talking about, and I asked you a question that if I ask you who are the actors or name some important directors or some good technicians from studio era, chances are that most of us will not be able to answer. But what we remember is that that of Dilip Kumar, Devanand and Raj Kapoor, Shami Kapoor, Govinda, Dharmender, Amitabh Bachchan, so all these people. Now interestingly, what you are remembering is a product of the collapse of studio system in India that I was talking about in the previous video. Now, by the time this 1950, as late as Neecha Nagar, we were started doing wonderfully on international platform also with Neecha Nagar that I talked about in the last video. Then you have Avara in 1951. Then you have Shri 420 in 1955 and a lot of other films that I'll be talking about. Now when we talk about this golden era of Hindi film industry, what we are talking about, I mean I'll be talking about different films, landmark film in this video, but understand what was happening in this golden era. Like we, because of our films, first of all let me tell you, many classics were made in this period. Many classic. We have wonderful directors, we have wonderful actors, we have wonderful lyricists, we have wonderful music directors, we have what not, like we have best of everything. Like now, like you have, if you talk about director, one of my favorite directors, Guru Dutt Sahab, was working in this time frame. Then you have Vishal Bhatt, then you have Raj Kapoor Sahab, you have Guru Dutt Sahab, you have Mehboob Khan, you have this Mehboob Khan, then you have K. Asif, I'll be talking about Mughal Azam. So, and then if you talk about Sahir Lodhianvi, was very active in this time frame. Obviously he like two decades. Then you have S.D. Burman, you have Naushad, you have Shankar Jaikishan, and like if you look at actress, that all the ravishing actress that we know of past comes from this time frame. And if you note that somehow we were able to transcend our films on international scale. Like if you say Avara, and you must have come across this point that in Russia these films were highly regarded. Then you have Jaagte Raho, then you have this Shri 420, and how in acting mannerism he was like Mera Joota Hai Japani, Ye Patloon Englishstani, Sar Pe Laal Topi Rusi, Phir Bhi Dil Hai Hindustani. Then films going for Oscars, lot of people learning Hindi so that they can understand these films. And you know, when you talk about this era, every department was doing wonderfully in its own in its own way. Now this is the only era where two very interesting things was happening. Films were critically acclaimed and they were commercially successful. Now this is a rarity which eventually we do not find till 90s, though that has happened recently with films, those who were critically, not only critically acclaimed but commercially successful also. Now this was the era where we were making wonderful films. Like before I start, let me tell you about, like by 1952 FDI, Film Division of India, organized the first International Film Festival. Now this is very important, I'll be talking about it. Then in 1955 you have Children Film Society of India being established, and by 1955 itself Directorate of Advertising and Visual Publicity was also established. Now these are some of the major. Now what happens, knowing all these things, like Film Division of India organize some international film festival, what change does it bring? Now understand that till this time, because we got independent in 1947, we were not allowed to see films from other countries than those countries that the Britishers wanted us to see. Obviously they wanted their films to be seen, then some American film also we were seeing, but we were not seeing films from Russia, we were not seeing films from Japan, we were not seeing films from other different countries which were also making films. Now when this Film Division of India organizes this first international film festival, Indians, be that making, those who were making films or those who were like watching films, they got to see variety of films. Now not only audience got aware, but a lot of art directors also got aware. It was not that we were not making socially relevant film. Had that been the case, then we would not have made Neecha Nagar. But obviously when you saw, you got more ideas. Like one of my favorite films, Do Biga Zameen, which was made by Vimal Roy, then Boot Polish, which came immediately after that, which was 1954. Then you have Jaagte Raho, wonderful film. If you have not seen this film, it breaks that aura of Raj Kapoor. He breaks his own aura, and when you see Jaagte Raho, it's a story of what takes place in one night, and how in morning this character who is being thought as a thief got the salvation in the form of water. And you see Sangam, you see Avara, you see all these films, and then you see Jaagte Raho of Raj Kapoor. There is a stark difference. You won't believe that he is Raj Kapoor. So even a showman, whom we call a showman, was also making, not also making, that would be a wrong statement. Majority of the people were making socially relevant film with entertainment. That was something which was later on got lost much in 1970 and too much in 1980s. I'll talk about that also. Now our films, people from across the world started seeing our film. Like think of Mother India, which was made by Mehboob Khan, and this film goes to Academy Award for the category of Best International Feature Film. Had it been publicized well, chances of winning were very, very high. This was a film which actually influenced a lot of people in jury, but it's not only the influence, there are other things also need to be done. And obviously like if you look at the story of this film, foreign exchange, there was limited money we were getting from foreign exchange. Okay, you have to specify why you need this money and something like that. And for the first time there was a film which was going abroad, so there were a lot of things which could not be answered and things like that. But somehow this film went there. But had it been publicized well, it should have won. It is, if you have not seen Mother India, please watch this. This is one of the classic that we should see. Now the next film, which is like close to anybody's heart, I'm not special, is Kagaz Ke Phool, which was released in 1959. Now unfortunately this was Guru Dutt's last film as a director, which was written by Abrar Alvi. Now when you look at this film, and if you are sensitive enough, you will not get out of its magic for weeks. Now when you look at the art direction of M.R. Achrekar, or the cinematography by V.K. Muthi, it kills actually. You are left with no words. It's so beautiful. Now imagine Geeta Dutt, wife of Guru Dutt, singing the song Waqt Ne Kiya Kya Hasi Sitam. Those who know the background, that I will not get into rumor kind of a thing, but there are a lot of legendary singers, I will not name them, also tried to sing this song, even the best of that time. You know what I'm talking about. even she could not match this song. The feeling that Geeta Dutt puts in this song, which is basically happening on screen, but which is telling the chemistry of off screen also. You know, that pathos, that feeling which is being put across through this song. Unfortunately, this film was a flop film, but later on, after some time, it became a classic. A classic, like, forget about this film like Kaagaz Ke Phool. This is masterpiece, way beyond its time. Look at Pyasa, which was released in 1957. Even people could not understand that film, Pyasa. And you know, you must see what I'm saying. I may be carried away, because he's the one whom I take Guru Dutt Sahab, and had he been there, we would have got some more classic, that I am very sure of. It's not that I'm not diminishing what Mehboob Khan did. Even he did a wonderful job. I mean, I like Mother India, and if I say a very interesting comparison I was drawing in one of my classes, that if I say that there is a similarity between Mother India and Vastav, Sanjay Dutt's film. There is, like, in some other video I'll talk about, but these two films, Mother India and Vastav, are very similar on thematic level. Then obviously by 1960s you have K. Asif's Mughal-e-Azam. And if I talk about the stories, if I start talking about the stories related to this film, forget not just Mughal-e-Azam. If I talk about Mother India, if I talk about Kaagaz Ke Phool, Pyasa, Mughal-e-Azam, if I talk about Avara, if I talk about this Shri 420, you know, it's not that there is always a constraint of time. Every year there were fantastic films in this era, fantastic films. So it is not that I have just taken only these films, so other films are not there. You know, there can be, you know, 1,000 films that we must talk about. But yes, these are like slightly more important in terms of some trends these films set, or in terms of like Mughal-e-Azam was not only the highest investment film of that time, but it was the highest grossing films for next 1.5 decade. So you know, that makes Mughal-e-Azam very interesting. And when a black and white film was to be selected to be digitally colored, it was Mughal-e-Azam which was chosen to be digitally colored, from black and white to digitally colored in 2004. Now, what is happening, like in 1960, obviously Film and Television Institute of India, which is FTII, was opened in the premise of Prabhat Studio, which is there in Pune, and there was another premier institute which is called Anwar Jamal Kidwai Mass Communication and Research Center, which opened in 1982 in the premises of Jamia Millia Islamia Central University in Delhi, in collaboration with the York University and York University, Toronto, and Canadian International Aid Corporation. And this is how this Anwar Jamal Kidwai Mass Communication Research Center was introduced. Now, what happens when you open up an institution like this? A lot of new directors are being trained, a lot of good technicians are being trained, a lot of future cinematographers, sound recordists, directors, actors, they are being trained in these studios. So there is a clear-cut departure from what we were doing, you know, around the time when we got independence. You know, we were doing this Parsi theatre acting. Then by the time Dilip Saab came, he started incorporating method actor. I was talking about Devdas Bimal Roy 1955, if you remember. Then you have, on one hand you have Devanand, which was like too stylish. Then on the other hand you have Raj Kapoor Sahab, who was who was carry forward the image of a tramp. And this is how, you know, you have all the characters in place. Then wonderful music, wonderful lyricists, wonderful directors, like I was talking about Guru Dutt Sahab also. Now, by the time you have then in 1964 there was a film called Yade. Sunil Dutt was the director, which was written by Akhtarul Islam. Now, why I have taken this film? This is a film which is in Guinness Book of World Record for having the minimum cast and crew so far. So, I mean, now it has this record has been broken. But imagine when you were making, when you used to have crew not less than 100 people, 200 people, 300 or 400 people. That is where you have only one person on screen. And I mean, Yade is available. Okay, if you get a chance, it's a beautiful rendition of it's a soliloquy of a man, and you must see this film, which is Yade. I mean, think of something that you have a multi-starrer film, even that film is not able to hold audience, and here you have Yade, which was released in 1964, one actor on screen, and he is able to hold people as much as he wants. So, so this is commendable about this film. Now, in the same era, you have Around the World, which was released in 1967. Why this film is important? Because this was the first Indian film to be released on 70 mm. Okay, that's why this film is important. By the end of this golden era, which I was saying, after independence, post independence up till late 1960s. So the late 1960 will be 1969. So you have Bhuvan Shom and Uski Roti. These two films came. Now, one film, Bhuvan Shom, was made by Mrinal Sen, and Uski Roti was made by Mani Kaul. And this is how some people consider as the beginning of new wave in Indian cinema. I would say that a lot of other things like Pathar Panchali, which was 1955, made by Satyajit Ray, that's a landmark film. Ritvik Ghatak, Megha Dhakatara, made wonderfully. Then you have Mrinal Sen's film, then you have Tapan Sinha. And more than this, Vimal Roy was making wonderful films. So, I'll talk about that. I have got certain reservation talking about new wave. They were like, there is no new wave, we are the part of the family. So, I'll talk about that. That's not a problem. Now, so these are the characteristics like post independence up till 1969, because 1970 onwards, 70s starts. And you have characteristics like you have brilliant, whoever you ask for, be that lyricist, music director, actors, good writers, and then you have brilliant actors like 4 or 5 that I was talking about, Raj Kapoor Sahab, Dilip Kumar, then you have Dev Anand, one of my favorite actor and director, Guru Dutt Sahab, Balraj Sahani, Do Bigha Zameen, and Vimal Roy, the collaboration, and all the ravishing actresses that you can think of, Wahida Rahman, Nargis, lot of other people also. And then you have that the world, that we were reaching to the world, people were liking our cinema, they were enjoying it. Then we have lot of other very interesting thing happening, and people were flocking to theaters, and they were like enjoying. It was a time when critique and audience, they were enjoying the same film, which was very difficult happening. It took some time to got this equation right. And then by the time this thing happened, we have alternative cinema, so-called alternative cinema, where Bhuvan Shom and Uski Roti was being made by Mrinal Sen and Mani Kaul. Before that, we have Satyajit Ray, we have Ritvik Ghatak, we have Mrinal Sen, we have Tapan Sinha, and then after that, by 1960 FTI, then the effect of FTI, then you have Shyam Benegal, Kamal Swaroop, Govind Nihlani, Saeed Akhtar Mirza, Kumar Shahani, MS Satyug, Garam Hawa, oh my God. Then you have Girish Kasarwalli, then you have Girish Karnad, then you have B.V. Murthy, B.V. Karant, then you have Sai Paranjpai, you have Gulzar, what not you have. Like this was one of the most glorified era. Now when we now here Bobby is written on the screen. Now when we talk about 70s, now 70 is 70 has got its own characteristics. Now if you look at that, you must have remember this film called Anand, which was released in 1971. Then you have Pakiza, which was released in 1972. Then you have Bobby, which is written here in 1973. In the same year, you have Zanjeer also. By 1974, you have Ankur, which so-called goes in parallel cinema. Then by 1975, you have Sholay. Then by 1975 itself, you have Divar. In 1975, you have Andhi, if you remember Andhi. If you have not seen this film, you must see this film. By 1975 only, you have Chupke Chupke, Rishikesh Mukherjee, wonderful film. You must see films made by Rishikesh Mukherjee. They are, fantastic films. Then by 1975 itself, you have Jai Santoshima. And so now let's take these many films that I have talked about. Now what is happening with all these films like Anand? If you pick up Anand, which is 1971, now if you look at the way these films were made, their theme and everything. Now if we were reaching to the world in our golden era, okay, with many films, now 70s is the time when world was coming to us. So we were westernizing our films. We were westernizing our films in 70s. And then all the major remakes that you see today, okay, is from this era, 1970s. Like there are many films which are recently being remade. Like Dawn is 19, if I am not wrong, 79 somewhere. I may be wrong, but I am very sure that it is here. Now, Amar Akbar Anthony, 1977. Amar Akbar Anthony, yes, and a lot of other interesting films in 1977. Now, first of all, up till this 1970, we were like making films which were rooted in our country. Here is where we started borrowing it. So if I say it was westernization of Hindi film industry, this era was the westernization of Hindi film industry, then I will not be wrong. Now for the first time, if I may say so, for the first time, sex as a symbol was used in this era, which was not happening before. Then another very interesting thing is, here in 70s, people were flocking to theaters. They were fighting for tickets. So it was so interesting. But somehow critiques started, keeping a distance from this kind of a cinema. When we are talking about golden era, we are talking about the critique and audience. They are parallel to each other. They were enjoying. The same film is being appreciated by critics, same film is being enjoyed by all three sections of audience. Now, who are all these three sections? If you remember, there is something called front bench audience. जो सिक्के उछालते हैं सिनेमा हॉल में उस टाइम पे, सिक्के उछालने का मतलब था कि आप फिल्म को जबरदस्त तरीके से एंजॉय कर रहे हैं. I mean, this is what my father told me. And then there were people, those who were sitting behind, and there was a balcony where slightly sophisticated people were coming and enjoying the film. There were like pre-independent era, there were boxes fixed in cinema hall. I'll talk about how cinemas were working for last 100 years in one of the videos. Now, so remember that in 1973, at the one end you have Bobby, and on the other hand you have Zanjeer. So you have high dose of romance, you have high dose of the first image of angry young man. So these two parallels were going on. Either you are too romantic to be rebellious, or either you are too idealistic to be rebellious for the system that in which you are working. But on a thematic level, they both were same. Now, Anand gives you the philosophy of life. Zindagi badi nahi, achhi honi chahiye, something like that. And the very interesting thing about this era, which is 1970, you play any number, people will start dancing. They will start dancing randomly. Like if you play in any party, if you play Jai Jai Shiv Shankar, Kaata Lage Na Kankar, I can guarantee you people will start dancing. It was so interesting. And if you put song like Chura Liya Hai Tumne Jo Dil Ko, I can tell you that any evening can be a romantic evening. So it was an era where not only you were creating very hummable, very performative songs, it was like people were actually, it was a departure from the golden age. Now this is what is happening in the 70s. Now Bobby, Sholay, everybody knows about Sholay. It was Ramesh Sippy's film, Salim Javed, which is eventually my name also. They were the writer. Obviously I'm not two people. Then you have Divar, which was directed by Yash Chopra. Again Salim Javed was the writer. Now this film, Jai Santoshi Ma, was a surprise. Nobody could have imagined this film to be a blockbuster. This was amazing. Like there were around 15 films which came after Jai Santoshi Ma. All of them flopped. Because again and again I am telling you, reiterating one very simple point. When we start following, there is where we make blunder. And when I'll be explaining 1980s, this point again I'll come to. Then in 1977, I'll talk about Jai Santoshi Ma when I'll be talking about devotional films across our history. Then you have Amar Akbar Anthony, which was directed by one of my favorite directors. So I put Gurudutt Sahab at the top, then this Prakash Mehra Sahab, then Manmohan Desai. And in 1977, he made 4 blockbusters. He delivered 4 blockbusters. Not only Amar Akbar Anthony, he also did Chacha Bhatija, Dharamveer and Parvarish. Imagine one director delivering 4 blockbusters in 1 year. I mean, this was awesome. So, this is what 70s is, that I also talked to you about, that how 70s as a decade brought change. So in this video we talked about basically how golden era of Hindi film industry, then one more era which is 1970s. I hope to take up 1980s, which is like people brush away this particular age under the carpet. But there were some very interesting facts and figure with this 1980s. Then I'll talk about liberalization, post-liberalization, and then how corporatization changed the very nature of film in India. I hope to see you next time. Till then, take care. Thank you so very much.